Before we begin, if you're listening to this alone at night, you're exactly where you should be. Subscribe and turn on notifications for more true horror stories, disturbing encounters, and unexplained events uploaded every day. Now lock your doors, turn off the lights, and let's get into tonight's stories. If you've ever worked night security, you know that buildings sound different after dark. Air ducts creak, metal expands and contracts, pipes knock. You learn to ignore most of it. The one thing you never ignore is silence. Because when a building that's always humming suddenly goes completely quiet, it means the power is gone. 3 years ago, I was working the overnight shift at a distribution warehouse outside Columbus, Ohio, when the largest blackout our county had seen in years hit just after midnight. The darkness didn't scare me. It was what started moving after the emergency generators shut off. My name is Eric. Back then, I worked private security for a logistics company that operated a massive warehouse outside the city. The building covered nearly 500,000 square feet. During the day, it was filled with forklifts, trucks, and hundreds of employees. At night, there were only 2 people, me, and the shipping supervisor working in the office until 2 in the morning. Most nights were boring. Walk the property, check locked doors, watch surveillance cameras, write reports, go home. I had worked there almost 4 years. I knew every hallway, every loading dock, every emergency exit. Or at least, I thought I did. It was a Thursday in July. A line of severe thunderstorms had rolled across central Ohio all evening. Lightning flashed every few minutes. The weather service warned that strong winds might damage power lines. Nothing unusual. Storms knocked out electricity every summer. The warehouse had backup generators. We weren't worried. At 12:18 a.m., every light inside the building went out. The air conditioning stopped. The conveyor belts fell silent. Even the emergency exit signs disappeared. For 1 second, the building became completely black. Then the emergency lights came on. Dim red lights along the ceiling illuminated the main hallways. The generators should have started immediately. Instead, nothing happened. I grabbed my radio. "Tom," the shipping supervisor answered instantly. "You lose power too?" "Whole building. I'm checking the generator. I'll meet you there." The generator room sat near the rear loading docks. Tom was already waiting outside when I arrived. He looked confused. The backup system never started. "Has that ever happened?" He shook his head. "Not once." He unlocked the mechanical room. The backup generator sat silent. Its control panel was completely dark. No warning lights. No alarms. Nothing. Almost like it had never been connected. Tom frowned. "It doesn't make sense." Before either of us could say another word, the generator started by itself. The engine roared to life. The warehouse lights flickered on. Air conditioning restarted. Everything returned to normal. We both laughed nervously. Guess it fixed itself. Neither of us believed that. 20 minutes later, the power failed again. This time, the generator started immediately. Except something else happened. Every security monitor in the control room switched to motion detection. One red square appeared. Aisle 34. Motion. I clicked the camera. Nothing. Empty shelves. No movement. Probably a false alarm. Then another alert. Aisle 19. Then, loading dock 7. Then, aisle 41. Motion sensors across the warehouse activated one after another. Too quickly. No person could move that fast. I radioed Tom. "You still in maintenance?" "Yeah. Motion alarms are going crazy. You want me to check?" "No. Stay where you are." I grabbed my flashlight and headed toward aisle 34. The warehouse felt different during an outage. Even with emergency lighting, most of the building remained in darkness. Towering storage racks stretched nearly 40 feet high. Every shadow looked deeper than usual. Every sound echoed. Aisle 34 was empty. No open doors. No damaged inventory. Nothing. As I turned to leave, something rolled across the floor. A cardboard box. It slowly drifted out from beneath the shelving. There wasn't enough wind inside the building to move it. I crouched beside it. The packing label was fresh. Today's date. Someone had placed it there recently. The radio crackled. "Eric." Tom sounded nervous. "I think someone's in here." "Where?" I heard footsteps outside the generator room. I'm coming. Halfway there, the emergency lights went out. Complete darkness. Again, the generator had stopped. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam barely reached the end of the aisle. Everything beyond it disappeared into blackness. Then, I heard footsteps. Not running. Walking. Slow. Measured. Metal echoed beneath heavy boots. They weren't behind me. They were ahead, moving deeper into the warehouse. Who's there? No answer. The footsteps continued. I followed. They turned into another aisle. Then another. Always staying just beyond the flashlight. Finally, they stopped. I turned the corner. Nothing. Only rows of stacked pallets. Then, a loud bang echoed behind me. A fire door slammed shut. I ran back. The hallway was empty, but the door had definitely closed. It required a security badge to reopen from the outside. Someone had used it. The lights suddenly returned. The generator roared back to life. Every monitor in the control room reset. All motion alarms disappeared. Tom met me near the offices. You find anybody? No. You. He slowly shook his head, then pointed toward the loading docks. One truck's missing. We checked the inventory yard. Every trailer remained exactly where it should have been. Except Dock 7. Its trailer door stood wide open. Inside, completely empty. The trailer had arrived that afternoon carrying boxed medical supplies. Thousands of pounds. Now, nothing remained. Police arrived before dawn. There were no signs of forced entry. No tire tracks. No broken locks. Nothing. According to the inventory system, the trailer had never been unloaded, yet it sat completely empty. The following week, electricians inspected the backup generator. They couldn't find a single fault. Every test passed. The security system also showed no errors. Except for one thing. Between 12:42 and 12:49 a.m., every camera inside the warehouse recorded exactly the same image. An empty loading dock. Even cameras located on opposite sides of the building. I requested a copy of the footage. Frame by frame. Everything less than a tenth of a second. No camera captured them walking in. No camera captured them leaving. I quit 6 months later. Not because of that night. Because strange things kept happening whenever storms knocked out the power. Motion alarms. Open doors. Boxes appearing where they shouldn't. Nothing anyone could ever explain. A year after I left, I ran into Tom at a grocery store. The warehouse had been renovated. New security company. New generator. New camera system. I asked if the problems ever stopped. He stared at me for a long moment, then quietly said, "They don't happen during every blackout anymore." "When do they happen?" He looked toward the parking lot before answering. "Only when the power comes back on." I still can't explain that. Maybe it was faulty equipment. Maybe stress played tricks on us. Or maybe there are some places where the darkness doesn't leave when the lights return. Sometimes it just waits for the next outage. There's something unsettling about looking out your window during a blackout. Not because it's dark, because everyone else is looking out too. When the lights go out, neighborhoods change. People stand on their porches. Flashlights move through yards. Generators start humming. You realize how much comfort electricity gives you. Then there are the neighborhoods where none of that happens. Where every house is dark, every street is silent, and the only person outside is someone who shouldn't be there. My name is Kevin. In the summer of 2022, I lived in a quiet subdivision outside Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was the kind of neighborhood where everyone knew each other. Kids played basketball until sunset. Neighbors borrowed lawn equipment. Packages stayed on front porches for hours without disappearing. It felt safe. Until the storm. Meteorologists had warned us all afternoon. Straight-line winds. Large hail. Possible tornadoes. By evening, thick black clouds covered the sky. The wind started around 7. Rain came a few minutes later. Then the power failed. The entire subdivision went dark. Not just our street. Everything. No traffic lights. No porch lights. Nothing but distant lightning flashing across the horizon. My wife, Rachel, lit a few candles while I found our emergency flashlights. Our 6-year-old daughter, Emma, thought it was an adventure. She wanted to roast marshmallows over the gas stove. We laughed. For a little while, the outage actually felt peaceful. Then my phone buzzed. A text from our next-door neighbor. "Can you check on Mrs. Donnelly? Mrs. Donnelly was 83 and lived alone across the street. She relied on an oxygen concentrator. Without electricity, her backup battery would only last a few hours. I grabbed my flashlight and headed outside. The neighborhood felt strangely empty. Usually during a blackout, people gathered outside to talk. This time, not a single porch light flickered. No generators, no voices, only wind moving through the trees. I crossed the street and knocked. Mrs. Donnelly answered almost immediately. She was fine. Her son had picked her up before the storm. Relieved, I started walking home. That's when I noticed someone standing at the end of the block. A man, tall, dark raincoat, holding a flashlight pointed toward the ground. He wasn't moving, just standing there, watching. I raised my hand. "Everything okay?" No response. Lightning flashed. For just a second, I could see his face. Or at least, where his face should have been. The hood cast too much shadow to make out any features. When darkness returned, he was gone. Back inside, I mentioned it to Rachel. She assumed it was another neighbor checking on people. That explanation made sense, at least for a while. About an hour later, another text arrived. This one from the neighborhood group chat. "Did anyone just knock on your door?" Replies appeared immediately. "Yes." 3 knocks. Nobody outside. Happened here too. One by one, nearly every family on our street reported the exact same thing. 3 slow knocks. Nobody there. Rachel looked at me. "Kids. Maybe. During a thunderstorm?" She had a point. At exactly 10:15 p.m., someone knocked on our front door. 3 times. Slow. Heavy. Emma looked up from the couch. "Who's here?" I peered through the window. Nobody. I opened the door. The porch was empty. Rain continued falling steadily. Then I looked down. A single wet footprint. Barefoot. Right in front of the welcome mat. No second footprint. Just one. I shut the door immediately. The power company sent a notification around midnight. A transformer had exploded several miles away. Repairs wouldn't begin until morning. We settled into the living room, trying to sleep. Around 1 o'clock, Emma whispered, "Dad, what is it?" "Someone's walking." I listened. Soft footsteps. Outside, moving from house to house. Then, 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more. Another pause. The sound slowly moved closer. Rachel turned off her flashlight. We sat in complete darkness. The footsteps reached our yard. Stopped. 3 knocks. On our front door. Nobody breathed. The doorknob slowly turned. Once. Twice. Then stopped. A bright flashlight suddenly shined through our living room window. I jumped to my feet. The beam moved slowly across the walls, then disappeared. The footsteps continued toward the next house. 3 more knocks. I waited until dawn before opening the door. The storm had ended. Our street looked normal again. Except, muddy footprints covered the sidewalk. One set. They stopped at every house, every front porch, every door. The prints began at the entrance to the subdivision and ended at ours. Power returned just after 8. Life slowly went back to normal. Neighbors compared stories. Everyone agreed they'd heard the knocking. No one had seen who did it. I assumed that would be the end of it, until a week later. A police officer knocked on our door. He asked whether we'd seen anyone suspicious during the blackout. I described the man in the raincoat. His expression changed. He showed me a photograph. This him? It was. The same height. The same coat. The same hood. When was this taken? 6 years ago. The man had worked for the electric utility. During another major storm, he'd gone door to door warning residents about a live power line that had fallen across the entrance to the subdivision. He was electrocuted before emergency crews reached him. I stared at the photograph. "Are you saying?" The officer interrupted gently. "I'm saying several people reported seeing someone matching his description during last week's outage." Months passed. Eventually, another thunderstorm rolled through. Another blackout. Just before midnight, 3 slow knocks echoed through the house. This time, I answered immediately. The porch was empty, but lying on the welcome mat was a folded yellow utility warning tag, the kind electric companies hang on damaged equipment. Across the front, someone had written 2 words. "Look down." I did. Less than 3 feet from my front step, a live power line had fallen into the flower bed, hidden beneath leaves and rainwater. The utility crew told me another step forward would have killed me. I've never told anyone about the warning tag. They would have assumed someone played a prank. Maybe they would have been right. But every time another storm knocks out the power, I leave my porch light off. And if I hear 3 slow knocks in the darkness, I answer them. Every electrician knows the first rule of emergency power. When the lights go out, the backup generator is supposed to start within seconds. Hospitals rely on it. 911 dispatch centers rely on it. Nursing homes rely on it. When a generator fails, every minute matters. 3 winters ago, I answered an emergency service call at a nursing home just after midnight. The generator wasn't what worried me. It was the patient call lights, because they kept turning on, from rooms that had been permanently closed years earlier. My name is Nathan. I've been an industrial electrician for almost 15 years. Emergency calls came with the job. Storms, transformer failures, generator maintenance. Most of the time, the problem was simple. A blown relay, a bad starter, low fuel pressure, nothing mysterious. One January night, during an ice storm in southern Indiana, my phone rang just before midnight. The dispatcher didn't waste time. County Care Nursing Center lost utility power. The generator won't transfer. They've got 43 residents on oxygen and medical equipment. I grabbed my tools and headed out. Freezing rain coated every road. Power lines sagged beneath thick ice. Traffic lights were dark across half the county. When I arrived, only a few battery-powered lanterns lit the entrance. The administrator met me outside. We've got less than an hour before some of the portable batteries die. I followed her to the generator room. The diesel generator sat silent. No alarms. No fault codes. Nothing. It looked perfectly healthy. I manually started the engine. It fired instantly. Oil pressure was good. Voltage output was normal. But the automatic transfer switch refused to send power into the building. It kept resetting itself. I'd never seen that happen. While I tested circuits, every light in the mechanical room suddenly flickered. Not because power returned. The building was still dark. The flicker came from the emergency battery lights. All of them. At exactly the same time. Then, they went back to normal. The administrator looked uneasy. That started after midnight. What did? The call lights. She led me into the main hallway. Most residents were asleep. Nurses moved quietly between rooms carrying flashlights. At the far end of the corridor, a red patient call light illuminated above room 214. A nurse sighed. It happened again. She opened the door. The room was empty. Not temporarily. Permanently. No bed. No furniture. Only plastic sheets covering the floor while it waited for renovation. The call button hung disconnected from the wall. Yet somehow, the system showed someone pressing it. I assumed damaged wiring. Water intrusion. A short circuit. Electrical systems fail in strange ways during outages. I reset the alarm. 30 seconds later, another light came on. Room 219. Another empty room. Has maintenance checked these? The administrator nodded. 3 times. No problems. I returned to the electrical closet. The nurse call control panel showed 5 active alarms. Every one came from the closed wing. None from occupied rooms. That made no sense. The closed wing had been disconnected months earlier. There shouldn't have been power reaching those rooms at all. I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward the renovation area. The farther I went, the colder the building became. Not just cooler, cold. My breath became visible. Plastic sheeting hung across the hallway marking the construction zone. I stepped through it. Every room stood empty. Fresh paint. New flooring. Silence. Then, a call bell chimed. Soft. Electronic. Room 221. The door stood half open. I pushed it wider. Empty. But the call light above the bed glowed steadily. The call cord lay neatly coiled on the mattress. Except, there wasn't supposed to be a mattress. The room had been stripped weeks earlier. My radio crackled. Nathan? The administrator. You okay? I'm in the East Wing. Long silence. Then she answered quietly. There isn't an East Wing anymore. I frowned. What? It was sealed off yesterday. I stepped back into the hallway. The plastic barrier I'd walked through was gone. The hallway stretched much farther than before. Rows of occupied rooms lined both sides. Doors stood open. Televisions played quietly inside. Patients slept peacefully beneath blankets. It looked like the building hadn't been renovated at all. A nurse walked past pushing a medication cart. She smiled politely. Generator acting up again? I stared. I guess. You'll want room 228 first. Before I could ask what she meant, she disappeared around the corner. Room 228's call light flashed red. I opened the door. The bed was occupied. An elderly man lay quietly staring toward the ceiling. He slowly turned his head toward me. You're late. I think you've got the wrong. The power always goes out. His voice was calm. But they never answer. He raised one trembling finger, pointing toward the hallway. They're all waiting. The call bell rang again. Then another. Then another. Every room. Every light above every door illuminated at once. The hallway filled with electronic chimes. Dozens of them. One after another. The overhead lights suddenly came on, bright enough to make me shield my eyes. When my vision cleared, the hallway was empty. Plastic sheets covered every doorway again. Fresh paint smell returned. No patients. No nurse. No medication cart. Nothing. My phone rang. It was the administrator. The generator just transferred. I looked toward the electrical panel. Power had been restored. The building hummed back to life. Heating systems restarted. Ventilation fans spun up. Everything looked normal. Before leaving, I checked the nurse call computer one last time. No active alarms. No faults. No record that any call lights had activated overnight. According to the system, nothing unusual had happened. A week later, curiosity got the better of me. I called the facility's maintenance director. I asked when the East Wing had closed. He hesitated. Depends which one. What do you mean? He explained the original East Wing had been demolished after a fire nearly 20 years earlier. Several residents died before firefighters reached them because the backup generator failed to start. A new wing had later been built in its place. Different layout, different rooms, different wiring. There never was a room 228 in the new building. Months passed. I almost convinced myself exhaustion had caused everything. Then another ice storm knocked out power across the county. The same nursing home called again. This time the generator worked perfectly. No problems. As I packed my tools, one of the younger nurses stopped me. Can I ask you something? Sure. Were you here during the outage last January? I nodded. She looked toward the renovated hallway. Did anybody ever answer the call lights? I didn't know how to respond. She smiled sadly. My grandmother used to work here. She always said that whenever the power failed, she lowered her voice. Someone still checked on every room. I still respond to emergency generator failures. I've repaired systems in hospitals, schools, factories, and emergency shelters. But every time I hear an old-fashioned patient call bell echo through a dark hallway, I stop what I'm doing, even if everyone tells me the room is empty. Because somewhere, behind the sound of backup generators and emergency lights, someone may still be waiting for help that never came.